Hello, Cougar fans. I'm here with number 7 and 8th ranked University of Sioux Falls Cougars head football coach Jed Stugart, whose team entertains another top 10 team this weekend in Minnesota State Mankato. It's a noon start out at Bob Young Field. But before we jump into seriousness of that game, which a lot of people will be looking to as one of the top games to watch this weekend in the NCAA Division II, let's just do a quick refresh on Concordia St. Paul. Jed, how did you think you guys played? You went down there and had your first shutout in 16 games. Defense looked like they really shut them down, 141 total yards. And then Luke Papillion, player of the week after throwing for 6 touchdown passes. Talk about that game.
Well, you know, our focus was that week is coming out and practicing and getting back on track to mentally prepare after a loss, an emotional loss. That's always a question, is how do your kids handle that? And so number one, the way we practiced the week coming into Concordia was outstanding. And our focus, I don't know that we had a lot of lack of focus before, but sometimes it just kind of reboots it, and you could really tell that we had a great week of practice, and that carried on in the field, both offense, defensively, special teams. We had special teams plays. And so, you know, real proud of our guys of just bouncing back and realizing, hey, let's get our confidence back. We're tied for the lead in our conference. You know, yeah, the loss hurt, but it didn't hurt us as far as controlling our own destiny. And they did that, and I was real proud of them. And we had some great performance. Brady Rose had a career day as well, and guys just flying around and making plays. It was fun to watch.
Brady Rose, you mentioned him. He just seems to come up with big catch after catch. He's now leading the team in receptions. He has the league high lead, it looks like, in touchdown passes. And he's just a pretty special kid for you, isn't he?
Special on and off the field. I mean, just one of those kids that you just love to talk to before practice, after practice, just hang out with me. Just a great kid. Total selfless guy, and just all about the team, doesn't really care about stats, and you know, could make a case where he's another potential player of the week as well in his performance. So I mean, it's, you know, it's just one of those things where you know, and the list just goes on and on with the kids on our team when it comes to having guys like Brady Rose. I think that's where our success lies, is the character of these guys. And we're just blessed to coach them, because they're pretty easy to coach when you got a bunch of dudes like that.
On defense, you had another number of special. I mean, a lot of balance. But Marco Naughton leading the team in tackles up front, and then getting solid play. I mean, holding a team to 76 yards rushing and 42 carries. That. And we know that Concordia is struggling a little bit, but it's still a pretty solid effort by
the
defense.
You know, I told our team that we were the only team that shut those guys out. You know, I think they've been able to score on some other teams, and I think they needed to be really proud of the fact that they're the first team that shut out Concordia. And maybe offensively one or two, maybe only one other team scored as many points. So it was a good win. I mean, it wasn't. I know in a way I thought the same thing with these kids. Really look at that as a credible win, and absolutely, you know, especially bouncing back and being on the road and coming out and playing like that. So I think their mind's right. It's carried into this week and the way we've started off this week too. So you know, they know what's at stake.
A good start of the week. Last week, just finishing up, they only converted 2 third downs in the whole game, and transitioning both offensively and defensively, 31% third downs against the defense, which is a solid number, and then 52% leads the league in third down conversion. So that's a good number moving forward as we look forward to playing Minnesota State. Talk about what lies ahead for your team. I mean, there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot at stake as you get late in the year. That's just the way it is, right, Jed?
Absolutely. And we knew at the start of the year as a coaching staff, to run the table in this conference is really tough. And you know, I know last year a couple teams did that, and so it's possible. But you know, all we've kind of asked for our team is that we got to win these big games and put ourselves in a position where we control our destiny. And you know, and so you got to, you know, our goal is really our number one goal was to try to do enough to make it to the playoffs. You know, it's great. Key to the city games and all these types of things are great memories and those things. But our mission is about trying to figure out a way to get in the playoffs and have a shot we just want a shot to win a national championship, and part of that is getting to the playoffs. The cherry on top is obviously if we can muster out a conference championship, that's another big goal. I mean, I think our kids have said, I said, this can be, some people would say, well, this senior class or this team was the first team to lose to Augustana. No, this is the first team that has a chance to win a Northern Sun Conference championship. That's how I look at it. And, that's the first time that can be done around here. And so I think these guys know, and I think they want a chance to go against a team like Mankato to decide it, because, go out and lay it all out there and see what happens. We don't really care what the outcome is about people's opinions. Well, maybe they weren't. It's all about us in our locker room and who we know our team better than anybody, and the effort these guys are putting, the adversity they've been playing through all year. We don't shout it from the mountaintop what those things are. We know what they are, and our guys are sticking together and they're playing for each other and figuring out ways to get as many wins possible, and they've done a good job at this point.
Mankato has a number of players that have on defense, you're going to have to pay attention to Josh Gordon, who's an All-American defensive end, and on offense, they have a wide receiver, Ty Dennis, that is 29 catches and kind of explosive guy, and they had to replace Connor Thomas in the backfield, but whether it's Nick Parasini or Ricky Lloyd, they have veterans in the backfield. What do you see in that team moving?
Well, playmakers. I think this is week in and week out. Sometimes you might just have one guy that you got to try to shut down, or we feel like this is a team that's got some playmakers scattered throughout their team, where I think people would say the same thing about us, and that makes it a bigger challenge. I think. We know that they've got some experience as far as winning big games. They've been used to winning, but they're kind of like we are. They had a tough loss like we did, and it's kind of made them rethink some things. So I think it's a very neutral game. I think we don't know because they've got some injuries as well. Where Lloyd sits, they've played two quarterbacks. Some they haven't as much in some games, so you got to kind of be prepared to see which one's going to show up. And then you got then the running back situation. I mean, but both those guys have been good. I know it's a big loss for losing Connor, but they've got another good guy as well.
You were talking about a little while ago about the energy that was in the team, and people might be able to hear a little bit in the background.
Yeah, we got a little bit of excitement going on in the hallway here.
But it just shows that your guys are motivated, right?
Absolutely. Man, I think, like I said, they love big games. I think that's probably what stung them a little bit. They've learned some lessons through that, so they're ready for another big game. I remember the week of Duluth, and they just had this look on their face even at halftime. We have a couple key injuries, and they just didn't seem to phase them. Hey, we're going to still figure out a way to win, and we got kids stepping up. And this is another opportunity for guys to step into some spots where we might not have a few guys and give them a chance on a grand stage, and I think they're chomping at the bit to do that.
One of the kids, again, we want to do a quick little look at David Clark, who earlier this year got hurt. Now he's been back for a game and a half approximately. How do you think he's playing back in the secondary for you?
Well, first of all, it gives you, when you bring veterans back on, it kind of gives your team a little bit and your defense a little bit of sense of comfort. David's playing through a shoulder that, we know that it could be any time if he hits somebody the right way, we could be right back to square one. Clint Wilson's playing with a torn pec muscle. One of the toughest kids I know. He's got to have surgery after the year, but is willing to go out there and play through pain that a lot of people would find unbearable. But again, his presence there is going to give some comfort. We know that we're banged up in some of those spots, but I think that's where the whole family thing comes out. When you see veterans come back from injury, it just brings a little bit of a calm to your defense. We've had to move some guys around. Hats off to our defensive staff of getting very creative inside our scheme, not trying to create too much so a bunch of guys aren't doing new things. But sometimes that's what the fun part of coaching is. You got to figure out a new strategy. And so, have we been playing, are we the same type of defense as we were last year? Not really right now, just because we weren't as beat up last year. But as far as our effort, our try, what the kids are putting out there, they're figuring out ways to get to get the job done, and a big test on Saturday. But it helps to have guys like David back and stuff. And sometimes when you're protecting a shoulder and trying to hit with the other one, you got to make sure it's still awkward to play that way, because he's got to be really smart in the way he plays so he doesn't get set back in that with that shoulder.
He looked good on a couple of plays in the secondary a week ago. He very narrowly had a pick. Earlier in the year, fans will remember that he had the pick 6 against UMD that gave the Cougars the lead, so it's good to have him back. Now, finally, I was just looking at the stats today earlier, Jed, and it's interesting. Through 9 games this season, you have the same exact scoring averages you had a year ago, 42.7. It's kind of a reflection. Offensively, you're averaging more yards in total offense than a year ago, when it was one of the most dynamic years in school history, at least at the Division II level. Talk in closing. I know you're not a big statistic guy, but those are interesting numbers, and when you really look at it.
Absolutely, and we know that. There's a lot of games where we've taken the foot off the gas, and we try to get the time run out. We want to protect our guys from cheap injuries, but sometimes you're tempted with keeping Luke in the whole second half last week, but is that the wise thing to do right now? And he probably could have had a record-setting day or offensively. But that's the other thing is having kids that you can count on to come in that are backup players that are trying to are a future young guys that have opportunities to play and get them the experience, for them to maintain our offense, keep it going, keep scoring points for our young defensive guys that come in and maintain a shutout last week. That's important for them to get in those game situations. So we're excited about when we celebrate those accomplishments. You're right, we don't publish our stats in the locker room so kids don't start getting worried about individual stats. We don't make those things visible, but we also celebrate that when kids hit milestones, and we think that's a pretty proud accomplishment as well.
One last thing, this weekend, 12 noon, talk about why everybody should come out to this game on Saturday.
Well, it's the game of the week in the country.
Maybe the year, huh?
Maybe the year. It's I know we got 2 games left, but it's a game, if we win, that is a start to a shot at a conference championship outright. And we'd have 1 more left, so we're not taking anything for granted. But it's fun to come out and see the 2 top teams that are sharing the lead right now. They're going to square off, and it's a little redemption. They beat us 2 years ago here. We beat us in the 4th quarter last year. We almost got out of the win and struggled in the 4th, and they got us. So there's a lot of resentment factor as far as for our kids to be able to revenge that a little bit. So it'll be a great college football atmosphere.
Fans, once again, that game's at noon on Saturday. Minnesota State Mankato at 8-1 comes in and visits USF. They're also 8-1, and they'll be back at Bob Young Field. So thanks for joining us today. This is Dan Gensler, Sports Information Director at USF. Good luck Saturday.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.